Okay, we are in the weekly Torah portion. Please subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, hit the bell, and you'll get notifications. Here we go. So we are Parsha Vayechi. Parsha Vayechi is the last Parsha of Bereshit, and unlike every other Parsha, it does not have a break in the pasuk. So there's normally you would have a break from one chapter to the next, or from one Parsha to the next.
You mean looking at Sefer Torah?
Right, if I look at Sefer Torah, you'd have a space of 9 letters or in a whole different paragraph. In this particular parsha, when Hashem was writing the Torah, he told Moshe and ultimately Ezra would do this when he was rewriting the Torah or putting it together, however they want to say it. So there's no break between the last word, namely the last parsha was they took hold in by Yirbu Ma'od. So there's one space, like a normal word, and then it starts Vayechi Yaakov Be'eretz Mitzrayim. So the question, of course, that everybody asks is, why is that so? Why is this what we call a Parsha Stuma? And this is the only one that there is in the whole Torah. So Rashi says, Lama Parsha is Stuma. Why is this Parsha closed, as it were? Why doesn't it have a break? And it says, Lefisha Kevan Shanifta Yaakov Avinu. When Yaakov Avinu was about to die, so Nistamu Einayam Libam Shal Yisrael Mitzart Shibud. So I'm sorry, when he did die. So what happened was the eyes and the hearts of Israel were closed, as it were, because of the distress or the torture of the Shibud of the subjugation. We're about to be subjugated by the Egyptians. And so when he died, once he died, that subjugation began. And so that's one reason. Another reason is Shabikesh Lagalod Edakates. Lavanav and Sumimeno. The other reason is that he wanted to reveal the end to his children, and suddenly that was hidden from him. So to indicate that it was hidden from him, God says, don't make a separation between the parshiot. Okay, that's the two reasons that are given. There's one more reason that the Kli Yakar brings down. He says, where is it? Let me just go through quickly. Again, the Kli Yakar says, why was this parsha closed? So because once Yaakov was passed away, so the Shibud began, the diaspora began. The second reason is, again, he wanted to, that's the three reasons. Okay, he wanted to, like Rashi said, he's just quoting Rashi for this, that he wanted to reveal the end, and he couldn't because it was hidden from him. And finally, that once he died, so the sorrow, all of the, this is the only addition he's saying, that all of the distress of the world was hidden from him. The Kli Yakar says, wait a second, what are you talking about? All this distress was hidden from him. Go through his whole life. What is going on? He had to run from his brother. He had to be with Lavan. He was ripped off by Lavan, and so on and so forth. I mean, his whole life was a mess. So why is he saying that all of the troubles of the world were cut off from him? So he gives a very interesting answer. He says the reason is that you're looking at the end of his life. In the end of his life, was he happy or not? Yeah, why? He was reunited with Yosef. So he had 17 years to be with Yosef. So even though all the years of his life, 130 years, were not the greatest in history, they were really quite terrible for him personally. That's why he says to Pharaoh, I've had a short and bitter life, right? But still, at the end, because, and we always go by the end, it's he was happy. So that's why it says it was the horrors of the world were hidden from, the horrors of the Shibud were hidden from him. Didn't know anything about it, right? So it's an interesting thing the Kli Yakar wants to say, that we go by the end instead of the entire life. We only go by the end result of that. Okay, but it was a very interesting understanding of that. So that it says what happens. So he was living in the land of Mitzrayim, Shava Esrei Shana, 17 years. Has to tell us 17 years. It's simple mathematics. The guy, when did Yaakov come to Egypt? How old was he? What?
Yaakov or Yosef?
Yaakov. 130, right? He says, I'm 130 years old. That's when he comes to fire. When he comes to farms, comes and says, how old are you? Nice thing to say to a person.
Why does he ask him how old he is?
Because he looks really old. So he says, how old are you? You look ancient. You look like you're 1,000 years old. She says, I'm really not that old. I'm not like my fathers. My fathers lived to 180. I'm only 130, but my life has been bitter. So that's what you see. But that's why I have gray hair.
I don't think you really need to explain why you look old at 130.
Well, people were living a decent life. Again, his fathers lived to 180. So if you look into that thing, it would be like us, like a 40-year-old looking like an 80-year-old. You have to put into the age brackets. So it's so that's why he says I was 130. Now we're going to find out at the end that he died at 147. So simple mathematics. He was there for 17 years. So why does the Torah have to tell us that he was there for 17 years? And then again, Vayehi Yemei Yaakov Shnei Chayav, the days of the life of Yaakov were Sheva Shanim, 7 years. Va'abim Ashana, 147 years. You have to wait till the end. It's the same pasuk. There you go. So it's simple mathematics.
In other words, instead of just saying, it could have said Jacob lived in Egypt for 17 years and died, or it could have just said he was 147 years old and he died, and you could have
right
17 like this. So in other words, obviously it must be trying to tell us two different things here.
Correct. Yeah. So what are those two things? Yeah. That's the question you have to ask. Okay. So what the answer is that why does it say Shvat Esrei Shana 17 years? How old was Yosef when he was ripped out of his father's hands? No, sold.
17.
17. So for 17 years, Yaakov had supported Yosef, and now turn it on his head. Now for 17 years, Yosef supported his father. So that's an interesting way to look at that. Okay, and then again, he lived for 147 years. So here's another question: why does it say 7 years and 40, and then 100? Why does it go that way? Every other time in the Torah has been going the other way. It goes large number then to small number.
How did it say Sarah? Just the big number first?
If you go back to this, I'll answer that. Let's look back really quickly.
It's funny. It struck me as it's usually saying.
There you go.
What was it?
There you go.
He's 100 years and 20 years and 7 years.
There you go. So it goes big, big, small. Big, small, small.
You can double check me.
Okay.
How old are you? Okay. You said it. You said it beautifully. If you say it that quickly, it sounds right. I'll go with it. It's
interesting.
But that's the point. It's going the opposite way. The question is, why is it going the opposite way? So where does it say that? Oh, right. So the Baal Torah, he says, Mana muat techila. It counts a small one in the beginning. Mashloasa came to Abraham Yitzchak, which doesn't do with Abraham Yitzchak. Why? Because he said his days were small and bitter. So his kira muat techila. That's why the Torah says, following Yaakov, his statement, it starts off with the smaller number. And as a result of that, by the way, he dies 33 years younger than his father. Why? Because that there's no such thing as a curse for nothing. In other words, if you open your mouth, we always say al tip taf satan. You don't open your mouth to the satan. You don't say something that you're not willing to live with, as it were. So what happens when it came to Rachel? Right, he cursed indirectly. He cursed his wife because when Lavan is chasing him and says, "You stole my gods," what does he say? He said, "Im ashir timsa delecha lo yichya." That which you find your gods, he will not die. He will die. He won't live, right? So, chashu lo minyan yud chet yud hey. So what happens is because of that word, lo yichya, he will not live. So the numerical amount of yichya is 33 33. So he said because of that, he lost 33 years of his life.
Wait, because of cursing Sarah or because of cursing?
Because he indirectly cursed his wife. But he did, again, he was saying about the one who you find the idols,
Right.
that person will not live. So since
It never works out in the Torah when people say things like that. And
correct.
Then the guy who says the first person who leaves my door, as if he doesn't know who leaves his own door.
Well, he doesn't. He thought it was going to be an animal.
I think that it's your door. Your family doesn't go out of their own door.
No, because he was talking about the gate. First one said the gate.
Oh,
So it could have been the gate, not the door of the house. But that was Yiftach you're talking about.
Yeah.
So he was expecting an animal to come out. If he would have asked Pinchas, by the way, he would have realized that his vow was worthless, that it was only referring to an animal, not his daughter. But he was too stubborn to go to Pinchas. Another story here, but that's in the book of Judges. That's online. But we learned that if he wasn't so stubborn, and if Pinchas wasn't so stubborn not to go to Yiftach, that would have been avoided. The whole thing would have been avoided. But because we had egos going on, either somebody died or somebody was put into seclusion for the rest of their life. We don't know. There's an argument as to what happened to Yiftach's daughter. But nonetheless, that's a different case. But here, he thought that nobody stole the idols, and it was just his father-in-law's way of setting chase and making a little noise. So he's making a statement of, if anybody has it here, and he's assuming one of his servants, if anybody, he had a lot of servants, would steal it, so then they deserve to die. You shouldn't steal it. Okay, but because he said, Lo yichya, he will not live. So according to the Baal Torah, that word yichya, which equals 30, so 33, excuse me, 33 is why he lost 33 years of his life. By the way, there's another explanation. I'm going to ask you what you want before I give another explanation. Go ahead.
Didn't the question start out with
which question? Which question?
The answer, the thing that you're talking about, why he didn't live as long as his father. I thought
shorter.
Why he lived shorter than his father. I thought that had to do something with him complaining to Pharaoh, saying.
I was going to say. There you go. Good. Glad you said that. There's also another thing that we say, that the reason he died early is because he complained to Pharaoh. No question about that. Right. So you could say Zev Zegora. You could say this and that caused it because he complained. And for each one of those words, including Pharaoh's words and his, you come up with 33. So that's another midrash out there. What I think is fascinating though is what would be the lesson of that? Don't complain, right? That's the first one. Don't complain to somebody. Somebody asks you, how are you? That's when you say, Baruch Hashem, I'm fine. You did this and that. Baruch Hashem is all for the best, right? That's what you're supposed to say. Comes with the Torah. And he didn't say it, so according to that midrash, he was punished for that, no question. But here, the Baal Torah is bringing down a different one. We have Shimon Pal Torah, 70 faces of Torah. So we want to understand that there's not just one way to look at this, not only one midrash, right? Both are right at this point. Since he cursed his wife, well, again, since he made that statement, not knowing he was cursing his wife or anybody else, a curse doesn't go out. Once you put the curse out there, it's going to fall somewhere. That's the problem. That's what the rabbis are trying to say, which they're giving us a little bit of musar. Watch your mouth. Don't say anything that you don't want to happen. We can go. So that's on both sides. It's the same drasha on both sides. Whether I'm complaining to somebody else or I'm saying a rash statement, trying to convince somebody that I am innocent, so I make a crazy vow. If I am not innocent, then blank should happen. Well, I've just opened my mouth, and I shouldn't have done that. That's what the Baal Torah is looking at. Now, the Baal Torah, the reason he likes numerical values is that's what he's all about. He loves gematria. So he's saying within the word, you can see what's going to happen. So foreshadowing as to what's going to happen, as compared to the Dasakan and Baal Tosfot, who talked about the other one, the midrash that you referred to. He has a different way of looking at things. He's looking for how do you understand words. You understand? So it's a different approach, but they both come out with the same thing ultimately. That there's a reason that he died at 147 instead of his father's lifespan of 180. That's the question. Why did I die? Why does one die earlier than their parents? Because
And how long did Abraham live?
175. And the question is, why did he die at 175? Why didn't he get made to 180? Because he didn't. Hashem didn't want him to see Esav go off the derech. So Esav is going to kill when he is 15. That's when, and that's the year. That's when he was 175. So if he would have, and God promised Abraham that he would die in old age, happy old age, satisfied in life. And if his grandson would have been a murderer, and he would have been suffering for the last 5 years, that wouldn't have been very nice. So Hashem did him a favor, as it were, and killed him 5 years earlier. The only one who makes it to 180 is Yitzchak. And but then, like I said, the question then becomes: if you're going, if Yaakov would have died at 175, there would have really been no question, because we say that a person, when they get within 5 years of their parents, one way or the other, they should worry about they're going to die. So, yeah. So if a person dies, if a parent dies at 85, 90, let's make 90. So then the children should start worrying from 85, no, to tshuva quickly. You're done to tshuva. From 85 to 95. After you pass that, you're no longer dying within their time span, which is why Yitzchak says to Yishmael, he was 123 years old at that point, and he says to Yishmael, Yitzchak says to Esav, go out and hunt me food. I don't know the day of my death, because Sarah died at 127. So he's nearing that age. He said, I don't know. Do I get my father's? Do I get my mother's my mother's lifespan, or my father's lifespan? Whose lifespan am I going to get? So if it's 127, so then I have to better get everything done now. And if it's 180, I have time, but I have to figure that out. And it's not for me to figure out, but so now I prepare. So it really is a way for us to tshuva, but that's what we're looking at. So if he would have died if he would have been 175, there's no question on him. But he died at 147. That's a tremendous question. Why did he die so early? Your longevity is pretty good. Your family line, 175, 180. You die at 147. What does it do for the rest of them? Doesn't do much for the rest of them. We're really lowering the bar. Now his son also, how old is Yosef when he dies? 110.
But there's a clear, gradual, step-by-step lowering of everybody's age.
Right. There's no question about
every single generation until it sort of gets to the modern lifespan. But that's not until after that, after the patriarchs.
Long after the patriarchs, actually, it's like 5 generations. Moshe lived till 120. So, and he wasn't abnormal.
He wasn't abnormal?
That's what I'm saying. There wasn't abnormal to live to those ages at that point.
We can live up to 120 now, but
we can live longer. There's nobody says we can't live longer. We live the right way.
Well, nobody does. Nobody.
Not right now. Nobody does. I'm saying we've decided that we have to come to the number 120 because.
I'm just saying, like nowadays, if you look at
longevity,
people don't live. They don't even live to 120. Very.
No, they live to about 105 at this point.
Yeah.
That's become the new norm.
That's the new normal, right?
New norm.
So there's something, I don't know. I always thought it was something literally because of the flood, like the radiation increased or something like that.
Oh, that's the Ramban. The Ramban says that because of the air pollution and because of so many things, that's why we lost all those years. That's
because it's like immediately goes down.
Right,
every generation has a
Nachmanides says what you're saying. Because of air pollution, because of the weakness of man, and so on and so forth.
Like it's affecting their DNA or something.
Yeah. Again, air pollution will do that. Air pollution, the atmosphere. So a lot of things that went on. So it was harder for us to survive.
Now every generation strays further from Ion, so you get further less from godliness to more lower, so you get lower lifespans.
But actually, nothing happened from Adam until Noah. They were all living the same. It was the flood that did it, not Adam to Noah, and
Right.
not because of leaving Gan Eden, but because of the flood.
No, I'm just for genealogical, not environments. It's within genealogical. As you get further from the original, it's more degraded. So if you're gonna think about it like scientifically with the environment and also genealogical, yes, that.
Your analysis would work if there was nothing else in the system. But the point is, you have other things in the system.
Right.
So, if I would have a piece of paper, to use your analogy, I would have a piece of paper, and I would take that piece of paper and duplicate that paper,
Right.
and then put that copy into the copier, and duplicate that, copy that, and then do the same thing over and over and over again. Sooner or later, I'd have a blank piece of paper that's coming out. That's what you want to say, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So the point is that that's not how DNA works, though. DNA, when you start mixing, if I would marry, again, theoretically, I'm not sure if it's true, but if you would marry sister to brother, brother to brother, and so on and so forth, keep it in the family, as it were, you'd have a degradation of the gene, of the DNA pool, and thus you have the scientists claim that that's where the birth defects come from. I'm very careful to say scientists claim, because I'm not sure it's true. But it's, but once you spread that DNA pool out, so then you're not having the recessive gene take over. You're maintaining the dominant genes in that system. So it wouldn't, again, what kills us is sin, according to the rabbis. We sin, we take ourselves away from Shem, and so on and so forth. But that's really what's doing it. And also, as the Ramban says, that after the flood and the atmosphere was, really killed. So now only those people, that generation, in our Shem ve'Aver, lived a decent life. They were into the 900s. I believe they died around there. But everybody else was dropping like flies because they weren't ready for that. But that generation, the previous to the flood, in other words, Noah and his kids, media kids, they lived a decent life. After that, you see the generations are falling like crazy until, like I said, Avram. So Terach lived till 209. I mean, but still from 800, that's a major drop. Okay, so that only takes 10 generations. And then from Avram to Moshe, it's not so much of a degradation. Yeah.
To one statement, one question.
Okay.
So when you're talking about Abraham was killed off earlier, so he wouldn't see his grandson go to Derek. It's not only his grandson, but the heir apparent to the family. It's the oldest.
Okay.
Because Yaakov could have gone off and it wouldn't have mattered as much. The other, it's the oldest son, heir apparent to the family, going off would have been.
I think he would have been bad either way for Abraham.
Right.
But I hear it again, because Abraham was promised he was going to die in a good old age, and seeing any one of the grandchildren go off the derech would have been bad for Abraham. But I hear what you say about the heir apparent. And now the other one, that was your statement or the question?
No, that
was the statement.
The other question is, wasn't there also before Yitzchak, the people like the generations even after the flood, they were dropping, but they didn't grow old. They didn't get like blind and
the first person to get sick was Yaakov. That was the first person to get sick, because originally, according to the Midrash, what would precede them dying is they would sneeze, and that was it. They would sneeze, and the song goes out. That's why we say God Gesundheit when people sneeze. So, and Yaakov said, daven to Hashem, and said that's not fair. We have to have time to prepare for death. So Hashem, he opened his mouth. Okay, so you want that? So he made him sick. As far as blind, there would be a reason for blindness, namely in Yitzchak's case, that he would have to be visually challenged. I'm not sure how much the blindness was, but visually challenged so that he couldn't see who he was giving the blessing to. Because if he would have known that it was Yaakov that he gave the bracha to, even if Yaakov's a wonderful guy that he he wouldn't have done it. He would have left it to God to do it. He would have said there's something wrong here, and that's it. But because Hashem took his sight away, and again, there's reasons for that sight going away. Nobody else is going blind. It's actually quite strange that the Yitzchak goes blind. Aaron didn't go blind, right? Moshe didn't go blind. Aaron didn't go blind. Nobody else is going blind. You have one character in the Torah who's going blind. Until you go to Tanakh, then a lot of people go blind. But there's usually a reason for their blindness. Okay, so that's again, it's not. There's no pattern that you're seeing. Unlike the age is a pattern. They're going down at a pretty quick rate. Okay.
Then you also get like people getting sick. So not only are the ages
only with Yaakov.
Right, but like with Abraham and Terah, however, their ages are, but they're still youthful when they die.
Yeah.
And then when he gets to,
Well, it says that Yitzchak looked exactly like the spitting image of his father, which is pretty good because that means the father wasn't aging. And it's like when they say about my son and myself that my son looks like me. Okay, I say thank you very much, but I don't think it's so true anymore. But I mean, I'm much older than he is. So, he has more hair than I do already. Okay. So now, yeah. So that's what's going on there. Fine. So now let's go on a little further, and it says, "Vayikru Yimei Yisrael lamut." So the days of Israel are coming close to die. Why? What's going on? He says, "Kol Yimei, Kol Mi." Shene'amar bo kreva. Rashi explained. Anytime it says that is coming close to die, it means lo igia lemei avotav, that he didn't come close to his father's days. So the Torah is already hinting to us that he didn't make it. As we know, Yitzchak lived 180 years, while Yaakov only lives 147. And when David also says krivat aviv, that he's coming close to the age of his fathers, and his father lived to 400. Again, to throw that into the mix, his father lived to 400, and he only lived to 70. David. No, not Shlomo. David.
No, Shlomo lived to 400.
No, Yishai. Yishai.
Right.
David's father. David's father lived to 400.
What? Wait, what?
David's father would live to 400.
That's Midrash. Am I spaced out here? What? That's a Midrash, right? It doesn't ever say that in the Torah, does it? I must.
That's right. It would be in Shmuel. Does it say?
I can't say that in Shmuel.
No, I'm saying it would be in
like
Shmuel.
Directly say.
It would, if it would be anyway, it would be in Shmuel. But I don't think. I don't believe it said. I don't believe we care about.
I know I wouldn't have missed something like that.
Okay.
But then doesn't Yishai show up like accordingly, like 400 years later? He keeps showing.
Well, a lot of them keep showing up, but
yeah.
Right. I'm not sure if it says specifically that he was 400 years old. You'd have to look that up, or why the Midrash indicates that he did. Either way, I'm not sure why he. It says Shmuel Aleph. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's Va'archa here. This is more for you. According to another opinion, it says. I'm not sure who's saying this, but it says 80 years. That would make it even better for you, because either way, he's living longer than his son. Okay. So one says 400 years, and one says 80 years. Okay. I'm not sure who the other person is, but you're right. It doesn't say it either way. So you have to.
There's no way that I missed somebody living to 400 years like after the flood, because I paid attention to those things.
Serach Bar Asher.
The one who went up to the one who was taken up.
No, that's Eliyahu. Serach Bar Asher was the granddaughter of Yaakov. She does a very long life.
Wasn't she the one who was taken up? Who was the woman who was taken up?
I'm not sure she was taken up, but I know she lived a long time. I'm not even sure she died.
She died at all. She didn't die.
She may still be here. I don't know.
I'm telling you, she didn't die. She was taken up. There was like 4 people who were taken up.
Binyamin
was not taken up. Enoch was taken up.
Binyamin.
Sarah.
So they say Binyamin didn't die. They say he didn't die.
I'm gonna Google it.
Right. It's 4 people, but you're right. Eliyahu, the one jumped into.
Sarah, Eliyahu, and one other.
Okay.
I don't know.
Google it.
I don't.
Google.
I can't Google it here.
Why didn't Binyamin? Is that just it's said that Binyamin didn't die?
Well, again, we don't know when any of the tribes died, any of the leaders of the tribes died, except for Yosef. That's clear. Everybody else is a guess as to when they died.
Right.
There's nothing that says that when they died. So we only know Yosef, but they live a decent time.
Right.
I mean, they're all going way past when we would think they should.
Right. So out of all the tribes, why is Binyamin one of the?
They say he was a tzaddik
Oh.
and he didn't sin. So yeah, no, I mean, we don't know much about Binyamin. We know a lot about his kids, but we don't know much about him, except that he was the youngest and so on and so forth. But he's
and his mother died when he was born. Or
yeah,
brother died in
again,
birth.
but we don't know much about him. I'm saying.
Right.
So they say he was a tzaddik, and that's what, so tzaddik doesn't die. And but then there's, by the way, there's another midrash that says that, which indicates he does die as a result of that midrash. But it says, why was Yaakov worried? We're going to get into this. I hope it's coming up really quick. So, let me get to it, and then you'll see. Okay, it's really very quick. So again, what happens? He calls to his son Yosef. Vayikol Livno Yosef. He calls to Yosef. Yomer lo, and he said to him, if I find favor in your eyes, simna yadcha tacharechi, put your hand under my thigh, and do with me kindness and truth. I'll not Mitzrayim. Do not bury me in Mitzrayim. Why didn't he want to be married in Mitzrayim? So he says, because in the end, the ground is going to be made into Kenan, and he didn't want them to bite him. Okay, we're dealing with a dead person. He's worrying about the pain of since in this all Kabbalistic. I'm just going to say the words, and you can ask what you want. But when since the neshama is still connected to the body until the body dissolves, what's it called? Not dissolves.
Disintegrates?
Okay, disintegrates, but it's a better word for that. I can't think of the word.
Decomposes?
Decomposes, thank you. Decomposes. So then there's still a connection. So now when it would still feel the pain, as it were, of being eaten. So it's an interesting concept. I'm not sure how that works. But as a result of that, he said, don't bury me here. Now, just using that for 1 second, it says, why was he so concerned about that? The body of a tzaddik doesn't decompose. A proof of that, Binyamin's body didn't decompose. Wait a second, you just said that Binyamin didn't die. So how can you say both sides of that?
That's obviously true. If he didn't die, it didn't decompose.
There you go. That's right. Okay.
Living bodies don't decompose.
So that would be that's the interesting part. Again, in the world of Midrash, sometimes you have to say, okay. And by the way, also says Yaakov didn't die. He said, what do you mean didn't die? We know he was buried. What do you mean didn't die? So it means that they want to say he didn't taste death. He didn't feel the death. You could say that maybe about Binyamin in the end, that he didn't taste death. He said about everybody in the end. They were tzaddikim, they didn't feel it. There was no pain of the death. Unlike other people who do feel death. They feel the throngs, the death
rattle.
The death rattle, that sort of thing. You feel it coming. Okay? So that was an interesting way to look at that. So then he says this. That's one reason. Another reason is she'ein matei chutza la'artz chayim ela b'tzar gilgul mechilot. So another reason he didn't want to be buried outside of Israel is because when the Mashiach comes, all the dead that buried outside of Israel will have to tunnel their way to Israel and then come up through there, because that's where Techid HaMeitim will take place. Again, I don't understand most of these things. Okay, because it's Kabbalistic. And also the third reason, Mitzrayim Avodat Kachavim, that the Mitzrayim, and this is one of the logical ones, that the Mitzrayim should not make him into an idol, should not make Yaakov into a god. Why would they be afraid? Why would he be afraid of that?
Because when he showed up at the famine.
Right. When he showed up, he blessed the Pharaoh, and the water came up. So he must be a god too.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a god. Let's worship him. Okay, so he said, in order to avoid that, I want to take me out. Okay, then he said,
Wait, I'm sorry. I know I just
no problem.
missed the entire parsha, but how did he end the famine? Because they came up because there was a famine had started. It was only like 2 years into the famine, and it was supposed to be a 7-year famine. How did it end?
So in the previous parsha, where it says on page page 262, if you want to follow it, the last verses. It says, Vayave Yosef et Yaakov Aviv. So Yaakov brought his father, Yamidehu Livnei Paro, and he stood before Pharaoh. Vavarech Yaakov et Paro, and Yaakov gave a bracha to Pharaoh. The question is, what's the bracha? That's the number one. That's the number one question. So Rashi explains the bracha was that the Nile should come up to him, to approach Pharaoh when Pharaoh walks towards it. Okay, so as a result of that, that basically ended the famine.
So the famine didn't last 7 years. So the prophecy.
According to that, correct. According to that, according to the the way we learn in Rashi, the famine ended after 2 years, but everybody recognized it was only because of Yaakov doing that. Okay. But to be fair, according to Ramban, that's not what happened. What happened was the famine, because he said if that's what happened, then Yosef's interpretation was not true. So he said, so how could it possibly be? So he said, and that really it lasted the 7 years, and the blessing was just a blessing of hi, how you doing? Yeah. So the question, so that's the question. What did he do, and what actually happened? So if you follow, because the Ramban has it, his question is, wait a second, if the famine only lasted 2 years, why would everybody have to sell their land? Why would everybody have to do what they did?
Well, because they thought it was going to last 7 years.
No. Again, when they come to Yosef, and they say, we used up all our money, and Canaan used up all their money. There's no more money coming. How could it be that after 2 years, just 2 years of famine, when you know that 7 years of famine is coming, how could it be that you ran out of money? That's number one. And then what do they ask him? By the way, give us seed so we don't ruin the land, so the land isn't lost. Well, it's going to be in a famine for 5 years. What do you bother me for? What do you need seed for? That doesn't make sense. Okay, so that's why Rashi says, well, the reason that they asked for seed, even though it's the second year, is clearly because the famine had ended because of the bracha of Yaakov. That's what he attributes it to. Ramban says no. What it was the last of the years. That's why all the money was used up. After 5 years, all the money was used up. They didn't save enough. They didn't do what they had to. So now what they do is they come to him in the 6th year and they say, we're out of money. We have no money. There's no more money coming into the system. Everybody's used up their money. So now, what are we supposed to do? So that's when he says, give me your cattle. Fine, give your cattle. They give food. Good. Now the 2nd year comes. They still have nothing. So they say, we don't have any cattle. We have nothing. Why should you kill us? And by the way, so let us become your slaves and give us seed. Because they know the next year the famine's over. So now they can stop playing. So if you go with Ramban, again, logically it makes more sense that this way everything works out, that the famine actually lasted for 7 years. And it makes sense why they sold out, why they lost some money and why they sold out. And it even explains why they would be willing to sell their land. Nobody wants to sell their land unless they're forced into it. And then it even explains why they were willing to be servants of Pharaoh. By the way, you know why they want to be servants, right? As opposed to sharecroppers.
Because then Pharaoh will take care of them.
Right. It's a social welfare system. If I'm your servant, you need to take care of me, whether or not this works. If I have to take care of myself, then that means I have to work hard. And the space of 5 years, they've been, let's go to the store and buy what we have to, because we can't do anything. So you get used to that sort of life. So they were saying, make us your serfs. We don't care. We'll be more than happy. And that's when Yosef was like, no, it doesn't work like that. You're working, you have to give 20%, 20% to the government. 80% you get to keep. And they said, okay, but we'd rather be servants now. That's why they offered the second time, well, we'll be servants. But that's what's going on. So you have to, so either way, Yaakov was a recognized person. He was a rich person walking in. He was of a royal family, if you will. His grandfather was king of the world. So, and his father wasn't a schlepper either. And he's coming in with 70, which is turning into, by the way, again, if you go with midrashically, it's turning into a family of 600,000 before he dies, because they're having 6 kids that are shot. So before he dies, they say that he saw all 600,000 people. Now that's going to turn into millions, of course, but it's going to turn into ultimately 10 million. And then 8 million die, something like that. 20% of that, 80% died. So yeah, it would be 8 million. But it's still a lot of increase that they're seeing. So they would think, wow, this guy something must be very special about him. So for those 3 reasons, he was afraid and didn't want to be buried. Yeah.
Didn't they start getting the 6 children birth thing when the Egyptians started to what was the word? Increase the
Subjugate them. Right. So that again, you'd have to.
Didn't happen until Yaakov. Apparently, didn't happen until Yaakov.
No, so again, you're mixing. That's the joy of midrash. Sometimes it's all based upon words in the verses. So what the word there is. Let me just see if I can find it really quickly. Otherwise, you'll take my word for it right now. But it's all based upon the words that he sees certain things. I just have to remember where I saw everything. But then it says it's all based upon Torah. Yeah. I don't know where I saw it right now, so I hear what you're asking, and you're right, by the way. You'd be correct in saying that's one of the problems with that drasha, that he wouldn't have seen it. Although you could say he saw a great increase, but that wouldn't affect the 6 and 1 shot. Or it could be that when you look at the story, the question is, where does it say it? Let's see. You have to go to Shemot for that. Okay, so Shemot, it says these are the children of. That's what I saw. I'm in Shemot already. If you look into the parsha of Shemot, it says these are the children, right? That came down. So that's from the word proof. All right, I forgot what am I doing? I have to go by memory. Okay. So it says here, if you go to page 292 to answer your question. Okay. So it says, right? They all die out. And then it says, that Bnei Yisrael increased greatly, so on and so forth, and they filled the land with them. The land was filled with them. So the question is, was that an ongoing system, or was that only after everybody died? It wasn't with subjugation yet. It doesn't say they were being subjugated. Right? So that's what it says. A new king arose who didn't know that Joseph, whatever, and he said they're going to take us over. Right. So you could argue that was preceding, and that certainly is preceding the subjugation, but the question is by how much. So there's a part that says that Yaakov actually saw this tremendous growth. Right. Okay. But that would answer your question. Right. It wasn't before subjugation. It wasn't after subjugation. It wasn't even as a result of subjugation. It was there. But there are some who say, no, it was a result of the subjugation. Because Pharaoh will say, lest they grow. And God says, they will grow. So you have that tension that goes into the system. Okay. So then what happens is, so then he says, well, when you bury me outside of Mitzrayim, I will lie with my fathers. Shatani Mitzrayim, you will carry me out from Mitzrayim, and you will bury me in their burial places. And he says, he says, I'll do what you want, Dad, no problem. Okay, why is he going to Why is he going to Yosef in the first place? Why not the rest of his brothers? Yosef is one of his, okay. Is his favorite? What is the other reason now? Again, I don't want to be stuck here in Mitzrayim. So who do I go to? The guy who has the power to pull me out, right? The vice who has the power to pull me out. The sons may not have the ability to pull me out especially if they want to bury me here. They're going to claim that it's not Pekavadik. It's on the honor to pull him out. We'll give him a better burial. We'll give him a pyramid of his own, a nice corner pyramid. It's not nice. So rather, I have to get somebody that can do it. Now, what does he say? The last line of that is, Vayomer, and he says, he shavali, swear to me. Make a shvur. Vayishavalon, he swore to him. Why would he have his favorite son who he trusts? It's Tzaddik. Yosef and Tzaddik. We call him Yosef. Why would he make him swear to him? Okay? And because Pharaoh is going to come back to Pharaoh is going to say, as you swore to your father, I'll let you go. But without that swear, without that oath, he would not let him go. He would have said, no, I don't want him to go. So he said, he knows Pharaoh, Yaakov understands Pharaoh, and he says, swear to me. Once you swear, then I know I'm going to get there. And he does swear to him. So then Yaakov, Yaakov bows to the head of his bed, and they say because the divine Shekhinah rests upon the bed of a sick person or an older person. So that's why he's bowing to him instead of to his son. He's not bowing to his son because that would be a disgrace to that sort of thing. Okay, we'll have to stop there. Great. Tells them.